terms of The Guardian, and it's something that I'm actually working on right now in America, the one thing the UK gets right is developing some sort of a standard for journalists to be able to just, say whatever they want with no truth. It's wrong. In America, it's a much harder standard here. For some reason, when you become a public figure in America, even if you are not elected into public office, you have to prove you have an actual malice standard that you have to prove, which means they can print anything they want. It can be as vicious as they want. And it is very hard for us to pursue them legally. And that needs to change. The Supreme Courts need to review the New York Times versus Sullivan decision. It is wrong. If you want to say that about people that are in elected public positions, fine. But public figures, I mean, does Kim Kardashian, are you allowed to just make up lies about her and her life because she's famous? Is that really fair? Is that acceptable just because she became famous? And I think that it's something that we need to sort of take another look at. And, I do have a legal team, and I'm interested in looking at some things with Facebook at the moment, and definitely have had the conversation with some bigger groups about longer battles. And I think turning over New York Times versus Sullivan, all you're saying, the demand is just tell the truth. You know what I mean? You should not be able to write something and have zero proof. You should not be able to say somebody is a white supremacist unless you can prove that. And I think that once you reintroduce that responsibility to the press, it actually helps the people too, because then you won't see so much fake news, right? They're going to have to be a little more honest. And it's a major problem that we have in America is the press can just get away with saying anything. And to anybody that is in the UK, CNN International is propaganda. None of it is real. It's all a lie. We elected Trump. There was no Russian collusion.
I like that you can embrace the legal action, and it's something we're moving forward with here and just going to start pushing back on that a little bit because, I mean, look, YouTube is right on my radar right now because they're kind of pushing us down the most. But what they typically do is they have YouTube creators and they demonetize. And when you demonetize, everyone stays away from the controversial content. They do into coronavirus because most YouTubers are, living at home and they're making whatever, and so they just comply. So that does 90% of the people. But then when you keep pushing, they have to come up with these new ideas, and I think that's kind of happening with us. But we think we really have some legal precedents here, and now we've got some funds and some allies, and I just want to slowly start pushing back against YouTube and Facebook. We had that whole false information claim the other day, and I don't know where to begin with that. So yeah, I think it needs to be done, and in a coordinated way, and I think it's a surprise, and it will be a surprise to some of them because they don't get much of that, do they?
They don't. And I think that the more power that individual voices amass and come together too when necessary. And I think that that's something that if other people are pursuing something, reach out. I mean, if you're going to go after YouTube, reach out to PragerU. And see how you make something bigger, because the bigger it gets and the more resources you have, the harder it becomes to ignore. And a lot of these people, I think, and in my prediction, in the next 5 years, there's going to be some landmark cases against these tech companies, and there should be, because you're talking about people's livelihood. What happened, and by the way, I don't watch InfoWars, but to think that Alex Jones on the same day got banned from Facebook, Apple, and Twitter, that shows collusion. And Facebook, that shows collusion, right, between the tech companies, which impacts somebody's bottom line. So they've kind of started on what they consider to be the fringe territories. We'll ban Alex Jones, we'll ban these people that are considered more fringe, and they're moving in now. Right. They're starting to call people. I'm like, calling me an anti-vaxxer is just crazy. I'm not getting the coronavirus vaccine. I don't care if I'm the last person on the planet. And they're like, this is the only thing that we'll see. I will be like, I am good on that. That is a personal decision that I am allowed to make. So call me an anti-vaxxer. When I went to Africa last year, I had to get the yellow fever, the typhoid. So, all of this is just like nonsense, right? And if you're going to start using that as reasons because someone disagrees with you because I don't want to get the coronavirus vaccine, you're going to give me a mark or decide that something's got to be censored, or me talking about my own personal decision making, that's not okay. It's just not okay. And they're starting to smear and libel more and more people. And now some of the people that were in the center they're considering them fringe, right? Just for having a different opinion is considered fringe. For not agreeing, if you disagree with the mainstream narrative in any way, that is considered fringe. So I had ABC News send me an email asking me to comment on my tweet about me saying that I will not get the coronavirus vaccine under any circumstances ever. And that tweet went viral, and ABC wrote to me and said, would you like to comment on this tweet? Many people will consider this to be a conspiracy theory. And I said, how can me telling you that I am not going to get the coronavirus vaccine be a conspiracy theory? It's not conspiracy theory. It's the truth. I'm telling you, I'm not going to do that. So I don't understand what you're talking about here. So it's all funny and it's all interesting. But I think the more we can all come together and kind of fight these guys, the better it'll be.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the simultaneous deplatforming, because the guest I had on Sunday where we did this massive off-platform stream, he was deplatformed from Facebook, 24 hours deplatformed from YouTube. And so you're like, okay, how does that work? You have really these independent community policies, and then out of the last 365 days, you just both decided on, it's just, again, it's ridiculous. And then the vax stuff, I mean, I've been having those conversations the last couple of days. I had Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on my show a few days ago, and he's actually, he's a really well-researched guy when it comes to all sorts of vaccination issues, and he's talking quite frankly about it. And I mentioned it to my YouTube rep, and they're like, well, you know how we feel about the vaccination stuff, and is it anti-vax? And I'm like, he says he's not anti-vax. He used to fight for mercury poisoning in fish. He said he's not anti-fish. But you know, you actually have to tick a box, he said, if it's a vaccination discussion, that it goes to special approval. And I'm just like, look, you know, if you're gonna deplatform me, get it over with.
It's totally crazy. The fact that people cannot speak about certain, as they're treating as if all vaccines are the same. If you cannot speak out against, I mean, totally personal story, but you know, they had the Gardasil vaccine, which was the HPV vaccine, which they initially came out with at the end of me being in high school. So around 2007, 2008, they started the commercials, and it was just women at that time that had to get it. They kept saying, if you don't get it, you're going to get ovarian cancer. And at that time, I was very much asleep, and I just accepted anything the mainstream media narrative to be true. So I went in to my gynecologist. I got the HPV. It's a 3-part shot, very intense. First shot I got, passed out, seizure, and threw up in the doctor's office. And I was like, it was mortifying. And the gynecologist said to me that I was having a bad reaction to it, and I shouldn't continue the series. And that was a decision that was made. So that was the decision that was made. And now that today I kind of like know the statistics of ovarian cancer. I mean, the idea that like every woman had to suddenly get the shot, it was totally bizarre. And so many people had very bad reactions to it. Now, if I go and want to tell that story about what happened to me, mind you, it didn't happen to a friend of mine who got the shot, because we're all different. All of our bodies are different. The idea that every single person would react the same to a chemical is absolutely, that's the bigger conspiracy. We all have different allergies. I'm allergic to lavender, for example. If they came out and said that all we're going to do to cure coronavirus is give you a shot of lavender, right? That might work for the majority of people, but not everyone, right? That's not everyone, because we're all different. I'm allergic to lavender. It's that simple type of common sense that clearly every vaccine cannot be good for everyone, because there's not anything that is good for everyone, save maybe water and air, right? Save maybe water and air. I know people that are allergic to chicken, poultry allergies, all sorts of weird stuff that you think this is totally fine for everyone. Everyone can eat poultry and be fine. We are all different human beings. We have different bodies. We have different reactions. So to call people anti-vax for talking about their personal experiences or their personal stories, to me is almost a bigger conspiracy, which means that you just accept that one thing must be good for everyone. And that would be totally bizarre. You know what I mean? I had my vaccinations when I was a kid. I am against the HPV vaccines. I had a seizure when I got that shot, which is on record. I have medical records to prove that. And I accept that some of the vaccines that I got as a child may not impact every child the same, may have hurt other people. That's really just common sense.
Yeah, my mouth was just open for the first 10 minutes listening to Robert Kennedy. He was dropping science about vaccines. And I mean, I got an engineering degree from MIT, and I was like, what? They don't do double-blind studies. They don't do placebo studies. And you know, there's no liability for the companies that make them. He said, even if on the high range, it's 40% effective. So everyone's saying everyone gets vaccinated, and the max it's 40% effective. He said, all these things you're assuming are true in the background are just not. And I was floored. But
vaccine, that's one that makes me sick every time. And then they say that's a conspiracy theory. Every time I've ever gotten the flu shot, I've gotten the flu. So I don't know what's wrong with my system, but it's not for me. If you want to get the flu shot, get the flu shot. I mean, that's medical freedom. I mean, more power to you. It's obviously we haven't gotten rid of the flu since the flu shot's been around. So I mean, it is what it is. And I people just accept the narrative and just cannot accept that we are all individuals and everybody has a different experience with everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and with, he went on to say that I think in a non-election year, 70% of the revenues at a lot of television companies are pharma. And so he goes on to say you'll never hear kind of the anti-vax narrative on air. And it just, like you said, it all becomes a business, and there's lots of things pulling people. I know.
Business mind, you understand that the people that are very big businesses, and there is no bigger business than big pharma, I'll tell you that much. And they have a lot to lose, and they hate anybody that says anything against medicine, anything that's pro herbal remedies. They want to make it seem like that's all crazy. And for me personally, I try to be as herbal as I can. I'm kind of against a lot of medicines, because there's really no medicine that's good for you. You need medicine sometimes, but it's not like it's good for you to be on any medicine long term. I try to build up my immunity, get outside, go outside, be around, take in as much as I can. I believe in natural immunotherapy, but I'm also not like, if somebody says I just believe in medicine and want to be on drugs every day, the doctor gives me, then more power to you. I don't have any issues with it. I'm not anti anything. I'm pro living your own life and making your own decisions.
Yeah, I'm glad you came out and made that statement.